Once upon a time, India was a vast network of jungles. And in these jungles lived animals that came to be identified with the land. The tiger reigned supreme in these forests, striding fearlessly across the length and breadth of the subcontinent, until man gained the upper hand. Even the remotest jungles were not spared as India's human population exploded. Chaos replaced tranquility, and most people lost touch with the tiger's world. Today, all that remains of India's jungles are the tiny islands formed by national parks and sanctuaries. This is the story of one small but well-protected forest in southern India, where, for now, a fragment of wild India lives on. Dawn can be deceptive in the jungle. The fog makes it look wet, but it is in fact very dry. Within an hour, the moisture in the air will evaporate, leaving the forest and its creatures in the grip of summer. These are gaur, a species of rare wild cattle found only in India and parts of Southeast Asia. Gaur are shy and timid animals, and in most areas where they live, they are rarely seen. They venture out to the forest edges to graze every night and disappear by dawn. The herds are generally small, consisting of several cows and calves and one or two mature bulls. They are the largest wild cattle in the world. With the fog beginning to lift, the herd starts drifting back into the forest to rest. It looks a picture of serenity, but for the gaur, the night has been far from peaceful. Sometime during the hours of darkness, a female has been ambushed by a tiger. A secretive predator, the tiger hates to have his kill lying in open forest. All his instincts urge him to drag it away into cover. But he's been feeding steadily during the night, and on a full belly the 500-kilo carcass is just a bit too heavy. A kill this size would normally provide the tiger with enough meals for a week. In this exposed location, with competition already waiting in the wings, he'll be lucky if it lasts half as long. To make matters worse, the kill is on the way to a waterhole and prone to disturbance. The bull elephant is short-sighted and can't see too well, but his acute sense of smell warns him of the tiger's presence. The tiger will not return to his kill now. He's eaten enough for the day and wants nothing more than a cool, shady spot to lie up until nightfall. No sooner has he turned his back, his kill is taken over. These white-backed vultures have phenomenal eyesight, and in the leafless forest of the dry season, carcasses are easily visible. By 10 o'clock, the sun is well up in the sky. It will be another long summer's day. In the oppressive heat, the animals have to travel afar to drink. Soon, even this water will diminish, and there will be nothing left except circles of slime. But it is now early June, and life is about to change. There is an old belief that when the peacock unfurls his tail to dance, the monsoon is on its way. After months of heat and dust, relief comes in torrents. For India, the monsoon is not just rain, it is the very god of life. Over the next 3 months, until the end of September, intermittent heavy rain will fall over Nagarholi, filling up water holes and rejuvenating the forest. Within just a few days, a mantle of green cloaks the jungle. With new grass springing up throughout the forest, chital, or spotted deer, are everywhere. For the predators in the park, like the packs of Indian wild dogs, this is a season of plenty. The rains bring forth an explosion of new life. Thousands of winged termites emerge from their underground nests to fly out, mate with each other, and start new colonies. The swarming usually takes place at night under the protective blanket of darkness. Those termites that delay their emergence until morning have to run the gauntlet of avian predators. Miners gorge themselves. Some carry full beak loads for chicks back at the nest. In fact, so delectable are these morsels that even the vegetarian turtle dove cannot resist them. The list of visitors is a veritable who's who of the bird world. The shy grey jungle fowl, and its larger cousin, the peacock. And then, as suddenly as it began, the exodus is over. The casualties have been high, and the smaller worker termites seal up the nest once more. Perhaps there will be another sortie in the night. Like many animals, wild pig choose to have their litters during the monsoon, when food and cover are abundant. The piglets are born striped, the better to hide from predators. As they grow older, the stripes will fade and then disappear altogether. This large group of youngsters, weaned and already feeding on the fresh, succulent grass, are the offspring of 3 females. By synchronizing the birth of their young and by staying together, the females ensure a better chance of survival for the piglets. common langurs have also given birth, and for their youngsters, the monsoon is a season for play and fun. The baby langurs play, secure in the knowledge that their mothers will be keeping a sharp lookout for danger. The jungle is alive with predators. A chital stag fights for his life. His adversaries, a pair of wild dogs. Although much smaller than their quarry, the dogs are hungry and determined. The harried stag has been badly wounded and is rapidly losing strength. There will be nothing quick or clean about this kill. For the chital, death will come from shock and loss of blood. Once he goes down, it's as good as over. The dog's killing methods may appear gory and cruel, but with their small size and short canines, they lack the strength or the means to make a quick, clean kill. They hunt in the only way they can, and like all the jungle's predators, they kill only when they need to eat. The dogs eat as fast as they can. This is leopard and tiger country, and they are themselves vulnerable to attack. By October, the monsoon has ended, giving way to a new season. It is the season of the annual Gaur rut. Every herd has 2 or 3 bulls in attendance, each vying for a chance with the cows. Weighing up to a ton each, the bulls can inflict deadly injuries on one another, but usually they avoid physical combat, substituting it with a ritualized display of their profiles. The higher the profile, the more dominant the bull. At dawn and at dusk, their rutting calls float through the forest. Although mating itself is rarely witnessed, the results of last year's matings can be seen among the herds. The calves born during the monsoon after a 9-month gestation. Nagar Hole has one of the highest densities of large mammals of any forest in Asia. One of the reasons for this abundance is the presence within the park of open swampy grasslands known as hadlus. The lush supply of grass they support throughout the year helps maintain large populations of herbivores. But an even more important reason for Nagar Hole's success is the extraordinary degree of protection the Forest Department has given it during the last 25 years. In poorly protected forests, big ivory-carrying bulls like this one are usually the first victims of poachers. The combination of preservation of habitat and strict protection from poaching has resulted in a superabundance of deer, particularly chital and sambar. With plenty of prey available, the number of predators within the park is very high. Wild dogs were once bounty hunted to near extinction because they were considered cruel and bloodthirsty. No longer persecuted, several large packs now roam in safety within Nagaholli's boundaries, keeping the deer population in check. In fact, thanks to both the abundance and variety of prey species, Nagaholli is one of the few forest areas in Asia where three major predators coexist at high densities: the wild dog, the secretive and elusive leopard, and the most majestic of them all, the tiger. Studying the tigers of Nagaholli has been a commitment bordering on obsession for Dr. Ulas Karanth, a research ecologist with the Wildlife Conservation Society of New York. For over a decade, his pioneering work, in collaboration with the Karnataka Forest Department, has included radio tracking of the elusive cats. This fire watchtower, rising above the canopy, is his favorite listening post. Somewhere in the forest below is a tigress he has been following for 6 years. A radio collar around her neck transmits signals that pinpoint her location. He has named this tigress Sundari, beautiful lady. Ulas Karanth's obsession with tigers has a scientific reason. The tiger sits at the apex of the food chain in Nagaholli. By a simple equation, a healthy tiger population indicates a healthy forest. Focusing on the tiger is an effective way of monitoring the health of the entire ecosystem. Thanks to her radio collar, Sundari can be tracked and studied. The other tigers in the park are near invisible. Studying them requires painstaking investigation. Examining tiger kills helps in answering some important questions. How much food do tigers need? How often do they have to kill? What kind of prey do they prefer?
The wear on the teeth gives a good idea of the age of the animal. This is an adult animal, not very young, it's not in prime condition.
An adult tiger needs to kill about 50 large animals a year. Gaur, sambar, and wild pig are favorite prey. Dr. Karanth's studies in Nagaholli have revealed that a tiger will even bring down a massive bull gaur 5 times its own weight.
This tigress has dragged the kill in, feed here, started to feed at the rump and eaten about 70-80 kilograms of meat, maybe 1 or 2 animals. Almost half the animal is eaten, and usually with a kill like this they'll stay for 2-3 days. The tiger may still come back for the kill tonight.
With the tiger poised on the knife edge of extinction, perhaps the most important question that confronts biologists like Ulas Karanth is numbers. Just how many tigers are left in the wild? Most wild tiger estimates are based on unreliable census methods like counting tiger footprints. But how else can one estimate the population of an animal that is almost as elusive as a ghost? Fortunately, there is a way. The tigers may be near invisible, but the signs they leave behind are not. The soft man-made roads in the forest are favorite tiger highways at night, a habit that is very handy for the biologist. For several years now, Dr. Karanth has been using an important sampling technique known as camera trapping to help him estimate tiger numbers. He sets up dozens of automatic cameras on favorite tiger trails in the forest, placing a pair on either side of a path with an infrared beam cutting across. When a large animal walks through, it takes its own picture. The work of setting up the cameras is tedious, but the results are fascinating. Every tiger has a stripe pattern that is as unique as fingerprints. By photographing a tiger from both sides, it is possible to unmistakably identify it as a particular individual. Intensive work with the cameras has revealed that Nagaholi has one of the highest densities of tigers of any park in the world. Of course, the cameras don't only capture tigers, but a whole variety of other nocturnal wanderers. It is February. The brain fever bird's incessant calling proclaims the arrival of summer. While some trees will begin to shed their leaves now, others, like the flame of the forest, choose this season to put forth their spectacular blossoms. At this very hot and dry time of the year, the nectar within the flowers provides a feast for the birds. The birds, miners and blossom-headed parakeets, get much-needed nourishment from the flowers. The tree gets pollinated. By March, the forest is really drying out, but there is still food up in the trees. The silk cotton tree's flowers have turned into pods, attracting the attention of a Malabar giant squirrel. The pods must be plucked at a specific stage of maturity. With its acute sense of smell, the squirrel knows exactly the right moment. Hidden within the fluffy cotton in the pods are numerous small round seeds which the squirrels and langurs find irresistible. The tree's stem is covered in spikes, presumably as a defense measure, but that doesn't seem to deter the squirrels and langurs. Despite their concerted attacks, a few pods manage to mature and liberate their seeds. As the heat soars, the waterholes in the forest become the center of action. A lesser adjutant stork probes in the warm, rich mud. Striped-necked mongoose and chital, and indeed all the other animals in the forest must come here to drink. The stork comes not for water, but for crabs hiding in the mud. For the deer, the journeys to and from a waterhole are fraught with the danger of sudden ambush. A male barking deer approaches nervously. Out in the open, he is vulnerable and must proceed with utmost caution. The thickets around the waterhole abound with animals, and somewhere within may be a predator in hiding. drives even the shyest of animals into the open. A leopard makes a rare mid-afternoon appearance. Even she is nervous. In tiger country, no one can afford to relax. That wound could only have resulted from a skirmish with a larger cat. In this jungle, constant vigilance is the key to survival. Among the animals in the forest, only elephants approach a waterhole with any sense of security. Even the youngest member of the herd has little to fear in the company of its close-knit family. Elephants are born swimmers. Although barely a few days old, this baby shows no hesitation in entering deep water. It may lack experience, but it does have a natural buoyancy, 4 strong little legs that work like pistons, and that most valuable of swimming equipment, a snorkel. There can be no better fun than a swimming lesson on a hot summer's day. Although a few deep water holes still remain, the forest itself is drying up. Except for the strips of green along the hadloos and waterholes, there is little food to be had here. An adult elephant needs about 200 kilos of food every single day, and finding this huge quantity of fresh fodder during the dry season is not an easy task. The grass is coarse and dry, and of little nutritive value. While the other animals, with their smaller appetites, will manage to find enough food in this forest during the summer, the elephants will have to take what they can and move on. It is difficult enough for the lone bulls, who have only themselves to consider. For the family herds, with their many mouths to feed, the problem is acute. The female leader of each herd, the matriarch, has an amazingly detailed map in her head of all the water and food sources within her area of forest. She would have learned this knowledge from her mother, and in turn, she will pass it on to her descendants. For as long as elephants have roamed the earth, this kind of traditional information has served them well. But times have changed, and every year their world becomes smaller under the relentless march of the human race. The forests that the elephants depend upon for their survival contain a vast variety of natural resources that have a ready and expanding market in the far-flung cities. Every year, more and more people encroach upon national parks to take advantage of this seemingly inexhaustible and free supply of forest products. This settlement of about 60 families is a recent one. By clearing the undergrowth and erecting small huts, their presence soon becomes permanent. These poor people depend upon collecting forest produce to supplement their income. Their knowledge of the jungle is admirable, but the methods they employ to gather its wild crops exact a heavy toll. The conflict between man and nature is starkly visible in summer, when the forest is at its most vulnerable. A carpet of dry leaf litter covers the forest floor, waiting for the carelessly thrown cigarette or unextinguished matchstick. Fire is the direct result of human intrusion into the forest. The fires start harmlessly enough, and when discovered early by the forest protection staff, they can be stamped out. But when fanned by the winds, the flames reach the understory of dry vegetation. The situation then goes rapidly out of control. Only the blue jays and drongos benefit as insects are flushed out by the searing flames. This fire could have been started by just one or two people collecting forest produce worth a few rupees. The long-term damage caused to the ecosystem is incalculable. The fires are indiscriminate. They consume everything in their path, stripping the forest floor of both food and cover. If life during the dry season was difficult before, it is now even more so. And sometimes the consequences can be tragic. A baby elephant lies dead from heat and exhaustion. The family's long, forced march through the burnt forest in search of food has claimed the life of this female's calf. The bonds between an elephant mother and calf are very strong, and the protective and distressed family is unwilling to abandon the dead baby. Not until heat, hunger, and thirst overwhelms them will this family continue its journey in search of food. On the western edge of Nagaholi stands the Brahmagiri hill range, also a wildlife reserve. Ancient elephant migratory paths lead up to these hills, where food and water are plentiful even in summer. But during the last 50 to 100 years, a wall of coffee plantations has risen up between the two reserves. To reach the hills, the elephants now have to pass through human territory. Although they do not eat the coffee plants or the berries, the rich, fresh grass in the artificially irrigated plantations tempt the elephants into staying. This may have all been elephant country not so long ago, but today they are unwelcome visitors to be driven out relentlessly. Fortunately, in this plantation, only harmless firecrackers are used. In some other estates, irate owners use guns that maim or kill. The more prosperous plantations are now having deep elephant-proof trenches dug around their holdings. While this will prevent conflicts between humans and elephants in the future, it will also effectively stop the elephants from reaching the hills. Unless safe corridors are left open for migration, the elephants stand to lose a major part of their range. Fortunately, the elephants still have one option open. As the forest dries out further, they head south towards a man-made lake where a transformation is taking place. In 1974, the Kabini River running along the southern boundary of the park was dammed for an irrigation project, submerging a large tract of forest and creating a massive lake. Now in summer, with water being let out for the crops, the lake has been shrinking steadily down from the tree line. The forest once extended all the way down to the river. Now the receding water leaves behind only the exposed trunks of long dead trees and expanses of mud. It is a desolate scene, but one that conceals a surprise. As the lake bed cracks up from the heat, a sea of grass emerges from below. For months, the grass roots have remained submerged under the lake. Now as they spring back to life, they bring new hope for hungry animals. The rapidly receding lake leaves behind isolated pools of water, just the opportunity the painted storks and spoonbills have been waiting for. There are hundreds of small fish trapped in this pool, but finding them requires patience and skill. Every day more elephants arrive on the lake shore, lured by the prospect of food and water. Typically in summer, many small families join together to form large herds. These congregations on the banks of the Kabini are among the largest concentrations of Asiatic elephants anywhere. Among the arrivals on the lake shore are a lone female and her very young calf. Elephant families are rarely this small, and it is unusual to see a mother and a baby on their own. A closer look reveals the sad truth of their story. The mother is blind. She was probably blinded by shotgun pellets while raiding crops or passing through a plantation. A perfectly round hole in her ear seems to bear this out. The rest of her herd must have scattered in panic and separated, leaving the stricken mother and her calf on their own. How they made it to the relative safety of the lake shore is a mystery. In elephant society, it is the bulls that habitually wander alone, leaving their maternal families when in their teens, and thereafter only associating with the herds either at feeding aggregations or when a cow is in season. They will follow this pattern for the rest of their lives and can live for as long as 60 years when protected from poaching. It seems doubtful, however, whether this male calf, already weak and wobbly, will make it to adulthood. With no family to nurture and support it, and with only its blind mother to rely on for protection, it is extremely vulnerable to danger. But at least his mother has enough milk to satisfy his hunger. By the end of April, herds of elephants dot the landscape, forming a backdrop to every little drama on the lake shore. This Chital doe had been killed by a pack of wild dogs, which were then chased away by the elephants. Now the antics of the vultures are causing unease amongst the herd. For the herd matriarch, anything slightly out of the ordinary is cause for alarm. The vultures waste no time in returning to the kill. It is the elephants that beat a retreat. Last to arrive on the kill are a pair of king vultures. At this late stage in the proceedings, there's nothing left for them but scraps and bones. Despite the disruption it must have once caused, the man-made lake now provides a safe haven for animals to rest and feed in summer. The elephants have managed to adapt to this drastic change in their landscape, but their future here is by no means secure. Parts of the lake shore fall outside the boundaries of the national park and are prone to human encroachment. The lake itself is under a threat of a different kind. When the dam was built in 1974, the small communities living in the area to be submerged were resettled round the edge of the new reservoir. The forest was cut down and converted to farmland. Since then, the populations of these communities have grown significantly, and more land has come under cultivation. Every monsoon washes enormous quantities of loose soil from these marginal farmlands into the lake. If the erosion is not checked, the lake could fill up with mud in about 30 years. Then, there would be no more water for irrigation downstream, nor any grass for the elephants. There are other threats as well. Over the years, the village cattle have also increased in numbers. These scrawny, unproductive animals wander down to the lake shore and eat up grass that is desperately needed by the wildlife. What is worse, they often carry deadly diseases to the wild animals. Gaur are particularly susceptible and have suffered from epidemics of foot and mouth disease transmitted by domestic cattle. By May, the grass on the lake shore has been closely cropped and there is little left to skim off the top. To fill their cavernous stomachs, the elephants now have to rip up the turf, roots and all. The resulting bald patches will not regenerate this season. To meet its nutritional requirements, an elephant has to feed for 12 to 16 hours each day. With more than 200 elephants grazing every day for weeks, the grass starts receding rapidly. But even as the food supply dwindles, the competition for it increases. Although the prospects for the rest of the dry season are grim, the evenings on the lake are as idyllic as ever. But this is no more than an illusory paradise. The only palatable grass left is to be found at the very edge of the water. And even this could turn dry in a matter of days. The land is parched and awaits the healing touch of the monsoon. By June, the carpet of green grass is gone and the lake has receded far away. The blind female has not fared well. The summer has been harsh and she has not had enough nourishment. Her weak calf is in an even worse condition. He tries to suckle, but his mother's milk supply is all but dried up. It seems doubtful whether he will survive. A few, even weaker animals have succumbed to the long summer. This might be sad, but it is part of the natural cycle. So long as the park itself is protected, new births will replace those that died. Already there is a promise of the renewal of life. The monsoon is on its way again. With the return of the rains, the spell of the dry season is broken. Soon the lake will fill up again and the matriarchs will lead their herds back into the jungle. The great elephant show on the banks of the Kabini is over. Today, parks like Nagar Hole occupy a mere 3% of India's vast landscape. But even these tiny fragments are under constant threat. If these jungles are to survive, they must come to be regarded as sacred groves and protected with all the reverence that is their due. For what is at stake here is not just the preservation of a wild legacy, but the safeguarding of India's very identity as the land of the tiger and the elephant.